One, as a responsible member of the UN, India participates in and promotes various UN activities. This includes contributing to a number of voluntary funds and programs of the UN. The UN Democracy Fund, the UNDEF that you referred to, is one of them. Soros organization related to those OSF, I think it was, the Open Society Foundation, are not being allowed to send money here. Look, that's a completely different issue. Insofar as any regulatory action is against any institution sending money to India is concerned, these are governed by our rules and regulations.
The United Nations Democracy Fund was set up in 2005 through the joint efforts of India and the US. One of the primary functions of UN Democracy Fund is to implement projects across the globe to support and strengthen civil society, human rights, and democratic values. According to recent reports, a significant number of projects funded by UNDEF were implemented by organizations connected to Soros's Open Society Foundation. In the backdrop of India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar's criticism of Soros, there were suggestions that while New Delhi was adopting a hardline position against a businessman and Open Society Foundation domestically, it is not taking the same approach at the UNDEF.
I don't want to get into exactly what the report, there were a couple of reports, but let me just make a larger point which you are saying about dealing with organizations of George Soros versus UN Democracy Fund. I think these are separate issues, and I think there's been a attempt to mix all this and have perhaps a misleading image of the overall situation. So let me clarify. One, as a responsible member of the UN, India participates in and promotes various UN activities. This includes contributing to a number of voluntary funds and programs of the UN. The UN Democracy Fund, the UNDEF that you referred to, is one of them. Incidentally, this fund, this UN Democracy Fund, receives funding from, I think, nearly 45 member states, including, of course, India that you referred to. Now, UNDEF allocates the funds received to numerous projects across the world, projects being executed by various organizations. And in this process, it is guided by UN norms and procedures. So, as I said, these funds are allocated for various projects and across the world, and then various organizations implement this. So that's our contribution and participation in the UN UNDEF Advisory Board or UN UNDEF organization itself. Now, there are comments also related to, as you said, George Soros, etc. And I remember in the report there was some reference to EM's comments. Look, on the EM's comments, I think they stand on their own merits. And I certainly wouldn't, I don't think they require any clarification. All I would say is EM's main point was that democracy or people's verdict in democracies must be respected, not undermined. And this important principle should not be obfuscated. If I remember, the other last element was Soros organization related to those OSF, I think it was, the Open Society Foundation, are not being allowed to send money here. Look, that's a completely different issue. Insofar as any regulatory action is against any institution sending money to India is concerned, these are governed by our rules and regulations. And where necessary, relevant agencies take suitable measures as per the law.
Recently, during a press briefing, spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs, Arindam Bagchi, said that these are two completely separate issues and are not connected. In 2005, while India and the US were negotiating the civilian nuclear cooperation deal, cooperation on another front led to the formulation of UN Democracy Fund. India's current External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar was the lead negotiator who represented India. The UNDEF receives funding from nearly 45 member states, including India, Spain, the UK, and the US. Recently, India's Ministry of External Affairs set the record straight on funding NGOs linked to George Soros through this fund. The UNDEF was part of the World Summit's outcome document. India has given $5 million to the fund in 2005, 6, 8, 9, and 11. No contributions were made in 2007 and 2010. India's contributions to UNDEF began decreasing from 2012. That year, the contribution was $4.7 million. The year after, it was just $1.85 million. From 2014, India slashed its funding to the fund heavily. In 2015, India contributed only $200,000 to UNDEF. In 2016, it was a mere $50,000. No contributions were made in 2017. In 2018 and 2019, India contributed $100,000. and since 2020, India has been contributing $150,000 to UNDEF.